Right, so Israel is in a significant amount of bother in the north of the country, it seems, as some 1,000 acres of their countryside is currently on fire, courtesy of rocket fire they allege as having come from southern Lebanon. So much for Israel's Iron Dome defense system bringing such ordnance down then. Supposedly 99% effective, yet these scenes of fires are as a result of the second of 3 successful strikes on the apartheid state by Lebanese forces just in recent days, having been engaged in strikes on Israel pretty much ever since October 7th, standing by the people of Gaza with them, taking military action much like the Houthis in Yemen have been, taking a proactive stance about it as genocide continues to be meted out upon the people of Gaza, even as a new peace plan is being considered and negotiations begin thereon between Israel and Hamas and those involved as mediators. So have Lebanon actually found a way around Israel's defense system now, and if so, will that change anything or simply result in more innocent people perishing as war widens on another front? Right, so northern Israel is currently ablaze as some 1,000 acres of land burns due to missile attacks having come from Lebanon, Hezbollah. So does this mean the Iron Dome defense system that Israel are so proud of, that other countries, including this one, if you listen to some Tories, want, has now failed? Well, as is usual in these things, there's no such thing as a yes or no answer. The northern parts of Israel were evacuated some time ago, large parts of it, and that evacuation has continued in dribs and drabs. It's an all but unlivable area for Israelis now as tensions flared up along the border region in response to Israel's invasion of Gaza, and these people haven't been able to return since. And there are varying numbers of people claiming to have been evacuated from the north, displaced further south. The numbers move to certainly in the tens of thousands, over 100,000 people displaced overall from northern areas, and it looks unlikely they're going to be able to return anytime soon the rate things are going. Now, given Israel has this Iron Dome defense system, which surely we've all heard of by now, 99% accurate at bringing down anything fired at the country, why on earth should they have to evacuate if it's that good, for one? Surely all missiles are fired can be intercepted or expected to be intercepted. Well, the fires right now certainly imply otherwise. I suppose the Iron Dome is simply more effective the more time there is to respond, less effective the closer to borders with aggressors, perhaps. That would certainly be one way of looking at it. We'll come back to Iron Dome effectiveness in a moment, though, because although this is how I, as someone observing the situation, might assess that to be a perfectly logical reason to evacuate people based on effectiveness, that isn't what Israel apparently claim. No, they claim to be evacuating people in the north, a claim at least being made last October by Mr. Pointy, Daniel Agari. You all know him by now. Loves to point at stuff and tell a pack of lies about what it is he's actually pointing at. This is all about clearing the area so that the IDF can have more operational freedom and expand to deal with Hezbollah. Well, they haven't been able to deal with Hezbollah to any particular degree, to any difference-making extent, and now 3 incidents which have led to these fires, all within the last few days, actually imply that Lebanon may well have the measure of the Iron Dome and have found a way to get around it, even set about bringing it down in certain areas. The first of these strikes we knew about came over the weekend on Sunday, where for the first time a Lebanese drone managed to reach Naharia, a Mediterranean coastal town in northern Israel, about 7 kilometers from the Lebanon border, without the Iron Dome intercepting it. It wasn't clear at the time if this was more by luck or judgment, but interception attempts by other means of this drone that ended up crashing in a park there, by accident or design, it's not clear, failed, raising questions as to how it got through, got that far, and what damage it could have done had it done what it was supposed to, if it wasn't just meant to land in a park. I can't imagine it was meant to land in a park. But the attacks that followed the next day, Monday, are the ones that caused the fires. These attacks took place in a different part of the north, all the way over to the east, within and to the west of the occupied Syrian territory of the Golan Heights. And this time the attacks from Lebanon look a lot more intentional, and the success of the strikes, combined with very dry weather conditions, are causing the fires to spread. But again, the question he's asking is to how the Lebanese are once again getting past the Iron Dome defense system, how they've done it again in a matter of days, next day, to land these strikes to begin with, because it is very much looking like that defense system is not living up to the hype right now. Part of this is that we know the Iron Dome defense system is not running at 100% in the north of Israel, since we know Hezbollah managed to destroy 2 of the Iron Dome batteries last December. So there is that. At $50 million apiece, these batteries are not cheap, and materials to repair them, as well as replacement missiles and components, are becoming more scarce the longer the atrocities in Gaza continues, because it means Israeli resources are being spread much more thinly. They're needed over there, instead of having to wait in the north. The Iron Dome also having to intercept ordnance being fired by Hamas, of course. So one explanation is that the Iron Dome is simply becoming a bit overstretched, and with certain losses of certain batteries, all the more so. The more that its batteries get taken out, it gets ever weaker. Have more been taken out in these latest attacks? Well, it's been reported that an air defense radar system, guidance system for the Iron Dome, has now been taken out in the Golan Heights in light of these attacks. And that was done so on the cheap, Houthis style, with so-called kamikaze drones. Just fly one of these relatively cheap unmanned aircraft into stuff and, well, destroy it. They also get used to locate these batteries and radar systems, since all they have to do is fly a load of these things into Israel and see where the Iron Dome defense response comes from to pinpoint targets for a further attempt at destroying them. And although that might not happen often, it's now happening more often. The more the Iron Dome defense system little by little gets chipped away at, then the weaker it becomes. And this has been the entire purpose of the Hezbollah attack since last October, when Israel went into Gaza. Whilst Israel wants to focus on the south and the Gaza Strip, they are being forced to constantly look north as well, look behind them, as Lebanon attacked them on that front. So it's divide and conquer, if you like. Things have got to the point now where Israel are now having to make a decision about what they are going to do about Lebanon specifically, as they constantly commit to these skirmish attacks to disrupt the IDF's aims in Gaza, and whether a full-on offensive against Lebanon is what they want to do now, because I should imagine if that's what they're considering, they would want to think twice about that. You see, when it comes to warfare, the only military force to have ever defeated Israel is Hezbollah, having driven Israel back out of Lebanon in 2006 when Israel attempted to invade them again. Unlike Hamas, who are of course also Iran-backed, let's never forget that, the mainstream media certainly never will let you forget it, Hezbollah are actually part of the Lebanese government and are certainly not occupied, so Iranian backing of all kinds is much more readily available than it would be to Hamas. It's a lot more difficult to get it to Hamas. It means they are much more powerful and have ably demonstrated that. The fact Israel, while still engaging in atrocity in Gaza, is now considering going to war with Lebanon again as well, rather than just end the Gaza siege, just shows how mad they are on one point. But when you've seemingly got an open-ended tab to US money and military aid, perhaps you do just get that big-headed and cocky and think you're basically untouchable. But the priority ought to be surely all the tens of thousands of people who remain, having been rendered homeless in the north, remain displaced. So what will happen in which case? What are they going to do? Where are we going to go with this? Well, last night, Israel chose to again break international law and use white phosphorus on southern Lebanon. Illegal to use in populated areas, as we know. We've seen it used throughout Gaza despite that, though. Yet it was shelled down upon 5 towns and villages in southern Lebanon, which, upon contact, of course, this stuff sets buildings on fire, and should it land on naked skin, it will burn flesh down to the bone. So these incidents have been apparently reported by Human Rights Watch. But fortunately, the Lebanese Health Ministry have reported themselves that nobody's been seriously hurt, though 173 people are being treated for respiratory problems upon exposure to the fumes. Again, this is just one more problem Israel is making for itself by continuing its genocide in Gaza to make more enemies and end up engaging in more war on more fronts, and in line with that, matters should worsen yet still for them, because as much as they might be mulling over going to war against Lebanon again, Egypt are at the end of their patience with Israel as well, and they're in the south, far south, especially in light of the IDF having seized control of the entire Egypt-Gaza border in violation of 45-year-old peace accords that Egypt has with Israel. That includes the Rafah crossing as well, with no aid getting through, and no real sign of Israel being prepared to relinquish control of that border. So just how many battles does Israel think it can take on at once? Is it doing all of this thinking it can drag the US into a more overt war here? How well will the Iron Dome hold up to all of this? Well, you can get all the details of that Egypt story on this video recommendation here, and I'll hopefully catch you on the next vid. Cheers, folks.